Good morning, distinguished guests, members of the faculty, and my dear friends. Welcome to the third day of Conventus 2020, the annual management conclave of International Management Institute, New Delhi. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to a screeching halt. Institutions, corporations, and governments alike are getting accustomed to this new normal. Conventus is a legacy that we at IMI New Delhi are determined to continue, come what may. And in that very spirit, we are proud to announce that for the first time, Conventus 20 is being held online. My fellow compare Mayuri Gupta and I, Parth Anand, shall take you through the CSR Summit of Conventus 20. This year, Conventus is structured around the theme Survival and Growth in the VUCA World, Adaptability, Agility, and Sustainability.
The acronym VUCA, which stands for Volatility, Uncertainty, Complexity, and Ambiguity, has gained massive popularity in the business world over the past few decades. The VUCA world demands leaders to come up with realistic and applicable solutions. Firstly, by tackling volatility with a visionary approach and by not allowing small roadblocks to come in the way of overarching vision. Further, businesses need to gauge uncertainty by bridging the gap between causes and their effects. Firms can counter complexity by breaking down the loops of reactions and promoting proactivity towards solving problems. To conquer ambiguity, continuous learning and swiftness in decision making is the key.
For years, we have seen industries change entire business plans overnight to match current market trends. The 2002 market crash had disastrous effects on various industries. Similarly, the 2008 financial crisis had detrimental socio-economic effects on the world. A common factor in both situations is how unprepared it left everyone. As it is rightly said, the best way to come out of a crisis is on top. And the one way to do that is by staying constantly vigilant. As future leaders, understanding how to tackle these four elements will give us the opportunity to stay ahead of the curve. Survival in a VUCA world is the need of the hour, and growth is the true way forward. Before we proceed further, we would like to play the Conventus 20 theme video.
Business often takes inspiration from the art of war strategies. Gone are the days when a single textbook solution could work all molds. Challenges have become multifaceted. As experienced by the US Army during the Cold War, VUCA, an acronym describing how less they knew or could think regarding situations. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown the world into disarray. Everything has become increasingly unstable. The concept of clarity is muddled. Predicting the future is nearly impossible. Interconnectivity is more chaotic than ever. So, how do you plan on coping with the new normal?
Before we begin with the session, we would like to introduce our esteemed panelists who have graced us with their presence. We are delighted to introduce our first panelist, Ms. Richa Pant, Head Sustainability and CSR Function, L&T Financial Services. She spearheads the Sustainability Task Force and is responsible for the company's first sustainability report published in fiscal year 2019. Ms. Pant has a rich experience of more than 16 years in conceptualizing and implementing CSR initiatives in various industries, including auto ancillary to pharmaceuticals, telecommunication, and financial services. Her work extensively captures shared value in healthcare, skill development, and digital financial inclusion. Ma'am, we are delighted to host you today.
Thank you so much.
Our next panelist for the session is Ms. Mayuri Mishra, Head of Projects India, Project ECHO. She has 2 decades of diverse experience working in international development, gender, and public health. She was part of the government's core body that formulated and rolled out the corporate social responsibility legislation in India. Ms. Mishra has been recognized and felicitated for the conceptualizing and executing a multi-stakeholder strategy in Baramulla, Kashmir. The project skilled 700 youth, especially women, and facilitated their employment. As head of Projects India with Project ECHO, she has contributed to the mission of amplifying the capacity to deliver equitable healthcare to the country's most vulnerable population. She has been instrumental in conceptualization and implementation of initiatives like COVID healthcare professionals in collaboration with Genesis, Google, and Infotech to help increase the capacity of the national government to serve the COVID crisis better. Ma'am, we are delighted to host you today.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
It is a privilege to introduce Mr. Anil Sharma. He is the Vice President and Head of Corporate Communications, CSR and Sustainability at Havells India Limited. He is a marketing and communication professional with over 22 years of experience in developing and executing highly effective and result-oriented plans. After joining Havells India Limited, he introduced and initiated the concept of sustainability at Havells, and in the last 8 years have conceptualized and implemented various initiatives to not only save cost and enhance employee productivity, but also promote safety and environment-conscious planning. His hard work has transformed Havells into a water-positive company and will soon be a wood and paper negative company. We are honored to have you with us today, sir.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you once again.
Our fourth panelist for today is Ms. Sonki Shah, CEO and founder, Arch Development Foundation. She has 18 years of experience in the development sector, where she has worked with NGOs, government, and several corporates. She is also a certified social auditor qualified to conduct the impact assessment and evaluation study of development and CSR projects. Our foundation provides companies and foundations with end-to-end solutions for carrying out various social initiatives as part of their CSR activities. The projects designed and implemented are mainly focused on education, women empowerment, skill and livelihood, and financial literacy, to name a few. Welcome, ma'am. We are honored to have you today with us.
Thank you so much.
We are honored to have with us Dr. Neelam Gupta. She is the founder of RO Foundation, an NGO working to empower poor and alleviate poverty. The foundation is a leading national level player in the social development sector, touching more than 10 lakh poor and needy persons across 18 states of India. She is a thought leader and a prolific writer, expressing her opinion on a variety of topics like education, gender, culture, livelihood, social development, etc. She is recognized for her immense work for women empowerment and has brought a positive change in the lives of over 2 lakh women in India. We are delighted to host you today, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here amongst you all. Thanks.
To moderate the discussion seamlessly, we have with us our esteemed faculty member, Dr. Professor Sonu Goyal, Dean Career Development and Alumni Services at IMI New Delhi. She is an expert in lecturing, curriculum development, management, faculty development, and analytical skills. Ma'am is also a doctor of philosophy, business policy, and corporate strategy, and has been a professor at IMI for nearly 12 years now. With a rich experience, she has shaped the career paths of many students. We thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Wonderful to be here with all of you.
Today, we have all gathered virtually for the CSR Summit. In light of the main theme, we wish to discuss how our ecosystem is embedded with VUCA. Be it at an individual level, in large organizations, or the government operating at the international level, this environment affects us all. The topic of discussion in this session of the CSR Conclave is balancing socially conscious cohesiveness in the VUCA world.
Social cohesion is about being more inclusive and creating more opportunities for all sections involved by focusing on balanced sustainable growth, thereby initiating overall business development with better policies. Today, we will try to gain insights from our esteemed panelists on how an organization manages both its bottom line and social welfare. Also, we will be delving into how NGOs are altering their plan of action to deal with the VUCA world when social initiatives have taken the organizations are negatively impacted in these unprecedented times. During the last few months of the struggle with the pandemic, some organizations have shown utmost care for the society by coming up with inspiring initiatives. To name a few, HUL has announced price cuts on the essential product Lifebuoy sanitizer. TCS has donated health kits, ventilators, and has set up online learning facility. The NGO Gunj has started Rahat Amphan Cyclone campaign in Kolkata to supply ration and other essentials to survivors. DSM India initiated Project Sridhan for providing healthy food to women. We will try to understand how equilibrium is struck between uncertainty and social responsibility, and how can we, as responsible citizens, work towards replacing volatility with values, uncertainty with understanding, complexity with coherence, and ambiguity with agility.
On that note, we now request Dr. Professor Sonu Goyal, our moderator for this session, to take over the proceedings.
Thank you, anchors. Wonderful to be here. And I would like to really welcome, on behalf of IMI and my entire fraternity, all the 5 panel members. We have some very esteemed speakers today, and I would really like to thank them all for taking this time out. And I personally think that we all owe it to our students, because this is a subject which is in alignment with the mission of our institute, where we believe, and we strongly believe, it is not just for cosmetic effect, but we strongly believe in the fact that we would like to build socially responsive leaders. And that's what we see in our students, and we hold these values very high in our curriculum as well. So let me start the panel discussion by just reiterating some of the things that our anchors have already talked about. And what is very important is that with the environment and social and governance issues becoming increasingly more urgent, how are the companies going to balance both profit and progress? This has become a key question today, and this is increasingly going to gain importance in the coming times. It's very poignant, more so in the backdrop of COVID-19. A lot of old rules of doing business may become redundant now as the new trends will emerge. And we are already seeing this in our everyday life. You may have all read that Alphabet has sold almost 5.75 billion of bonds in one of their largest corporate bond sale dedicated to environment, social, and governance purpose. So how are companies going to find ways and means of managing the sustainability as we go forward? So this is what our theme is today, and I'm hoping and I'm looking forward for a very engaging discussion here with our panel members. I'm sure they have a lot of insights to share with all our young, bright minds who are listening very keenly to this panel discussion. So my first question is for Richa Pant, who is heading the sustainability and CSR function at L&T Financial Services. Richa, you've been instrumental in releasing the very first sustainability report of L&T Financial Services, and you strongly believe in profit with purpose. How does strategic CSR help co-create shared value? And how has the 3S framework helped in value creation? Over to you, Richa.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I would like to first thank Club Jagrati IMI and of course you, Professor Goyal, for inviting me and sharing a bit about L&T Financial Services work both in CSR and sustainability space. Just to share with all the audiences, as you rightly said, sustainability journey is fairly new for L&T Financial Services. We came up with our first report last year. This year, we came up with our first integrated report using the 6 capitals, and we've gone for assurance also. So, just to share a brief about, everywhere, because all of you are management students and you know that, when you'll be entering the workforce, it's very important to have a business case when you're implementing either sustainability initiatives, and CSR is just part of that. And also starting a new CSR program if there's a change in CSR strategy. So what you will have to do is typically, you have to understand your business really well. And, even though if you're coming from, let's say you have a background in development sector like I had, I'm primarily a social work professional, then did my management and then moved to the corporate sector. So it's very important for all of us to understand what is the business all about, whichever industry you are in. whether it is pharmaceutical that I've been associated with, or telecom, or financial services, you need to know what is the overall business value chain, what are the touch points where the businesses is able to kind of reach to either environment or community, or is impacting community or environment. These are the two broad areas. Of course, there's supply chain, there is employees also, but primarily as a CSR and sustainability professional, you work around these 3-4 areas, which includes your communities, your environment footprint, if you're in extraction based industries, or manufacturing point. If you're a services, of course, which are the customers, you need to understand them, what are their issues in terms of social and environmental issues. Then of course, your supply chain. So just to give you an example, when I was part of Tata Communication Services, the main thing that we had to kind of look was, how to develop a skill development program around telecom trade. Now that is again, which will bring the mind share of your top management, and you will stay invested for long. So again, a skill development program was how to look at youth from, let's say, less privileged background, because that was the need for the CSR, but also looking at skilling them in telecom trades, which was a requirement of our supply chain. But again, knowing very well that CSR mandate does not include that you need to benefit business. However, you can align it to business. So skilling them and then placing them with the supply chain, which can then again look at the manpower requirement of entire telecom sector. So whether it was Tatacom or Reliancecom, your competition, but anywhere. So when you're developing programs, you need to understand what is the gap within the industry, what is the gap within the societal needs, and then conceptualize programs. Similarly, for sustainability, when we were pitching in L&T Financial Services, it was very important, to understand, you'll have questions from top management stating that, would it lead to really increase in your market capitalization? That doesn't happen, but you need to kind of explain to them from a long-term perspective. We have here heads from Havells and others who understand sustainability really well, and they've actually delivered great programs where, top management has understood that, over a long period of time, while initially there might be cost involved, but long period of time, it's a cost reducing exercise. And overall, there's a lot of stakeholder value creation that happens. From an employee perspective now, all of you will be joining, corporates. You'll see, and you must be evaluating also that how companies are delivering on sustainability. And employees do ask us questions. When I recruit people, I do get questions that what is the company doing on ESG? Because it's becoming critical day by day. Again, to share with you, the top management mindset is also because investors are asking constantly about what is company's ESG footprint. I work very closely with investor relations team, with company secretary, with our HR, with our facilities channel and management team. So all internal stakeholders are part of the task force. And that's again something which is very critical. When as sustainability professional, you enter the field, you form a task force which is comprising of all important stakeholders. Again, they also help you build the business case when you're sharing with your top management. So there was an ask from institutional investors on what you can do on sustainability and why you need to have a sustainability report. We went ahead and in fact applied for Dow Jones Sustainability Index also, which was the first time for us. This year we did a carbon disclosure project application. So this is something that, as a company, we've been, doing it at a continual level, and we are evolving. We've just taken baby steps in it. We're learning a lot from companies who have actually evolved in this space, a lot from other financial services, banks and others who have developed sustainability reports. So there's a lot of learning that happens. A key thing which, like I mentioned during the beginning of my talk, was also stakeholder involvement, whether it is CSR or sustainability, both your internal stakeholders, which includes your top management, your business teams, your supply chain teams, your HR, all, you take their inputs and then develop the case. For CSR specifically, again, the need of the community, your expertise, how you can address those needs of the community, the gap in your particular industry, how you can kind of develop or co-create programs using those and merge these together and deliver the program. And all this when you do, you can stay invested for long and not have just a 1 year or a 2 year program. You can stay invested for 3 to 5 years because your top management understands that in a long-term perspective, it will impact business also. There will be a goodwill coming out of it. And there will be an increase in benefit. As we all know, if you don't invest in communities, if you don't invest in the environment footprint, you're not going to be sustainable for long. COVID pandemic has taught us a lot. The recent climate change incidences, every year India has been having, recurrent natural disasters. It's been going on and on. So it's very important for us as businesses to start investing in disaster relief and rehabilitation work, look at preventive activities. I think that's one core area, at least in my personal opinion, I would suggest that all companies should look at disaster relief and rehab as one of the core thematic area. in the CSR policy. These are some of the points I'd like to share from the beginning. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Richa. This is, I think, what you said was really very relevant. I think the first thing which I clearly understood is that you're coming out with integrated sustainability report. And I think it's very important for our students to understand that integrating sustainability report with your annual report means your disclosures on your ESG footprint. And I think that's very critical because you're now integrating whatever you're doing on sustainability front with your business strategy. And I think that's the way forward. So I think the L&T Financial Services, we have a lot of respect. There are also our regular recruiters. So a lot of students who would be probably joining this company would really understand and believe in this, that sustainability is very integral to business strategy, unless you know how your ESG footprint is, because investor at the end of the day is looking at overall sustainability in the long term. And
yes,
I think that's very crucial. So thank you so much for informing us on these. My next question is to Mr. Anil Sharma, who is the VP and Head Communications for CSR and Sustainability at Havells India. So Anil, you have been closely working on driving sustainability at Havells, and you have pursued triple bottom line performance. How have you integrated sustainability with your business strategy, which is in line with what just Richa has said? So let's understand as to how Havells is going about this.
Thank you, first of all, Sonu and the entire, IMI Jagriti Club for having me here. I think Richa has summarized a lot of factors about sustainability, CSR, Havells, when I joined Havells in 2012, okay, that's the time when I set up these three departments, primarily corporate communication, sustainability, and CSR. Now, I don't come from the background like Richa has, of social work and all of that. But to me, sustainability was common sense. Okay, my chairman that time did not understand sustainability. So all he told me is that if you think it is good for the organization, please go ahead and do it. But if you really dwell, so word CSR, I think, whatever we talk about corporate social responsibility, I think this word has been given by India to the world. This is what I believe. Now, if I was to say that, if you go to any corporate, or any shop, you will see two words, Shubh Labh, and that is on the galla, right? On that safe box where they collect money. Why do they write Shubh Labh? We read Hindi or English, left to right. Because Shubh, which is the good work, that comes first, and then Labh comes, profit would follow. And this is the psyche with which we really started to work, when I started this, entire CSR department. Okay. Like, Richa said that, a lot of goodwill you generate, but also along with goodwill, when you work with a promoter entity, you realize that profits are also equally important. Money is also equally important, and you need to give those results, right? Now, results could be tangible, intangible, but the results have to be there. And goodwill also has a value in the books. So let me give you a clear example. We started doing midday meals service in 2005 when there was no CSR law. Okay, almost 15 years back, we started this exercise. And then when I kind of joined, I realized that, I used to visit all these schools. And slowly, we realized that, there are so many problems. So the choice is that, what do? We kind of, spread too thin, or we kind of, focus on certain areas. And we realized that if we were to kind of, and we were touching the lives of almost like 35,000 children at that time. Today, we kind of touch lives of almost like 90,000 children. Okay. So this 60,000 increase in last 8 years, is what, we have been able to. And what we realized that if you do this midday meal, it is not sufficient. While children are coming and having food, but they need a lot more. So we started, building sanitation. Then the moment we built sanitation, we realized that, there is a bigger problem that the sanitation or the toilets are not being used. So how do you make them use the toilets? And therefore the sensitization workshops along with, with the children started happening. Then we realized that with this sensitization is happening, but the cleaning of these toilets is not happening. The reason is that schools do not have funds. So there is so much, the moment you start doing one thing, there is so much depth available to do so many more things, to be able to make sure. And that's where I realized that unless you have a 360-degree perspective to any problem, okay, you cannot really make it successful. So a lot of corporates today build toilets, and after 1 year, 6 months, they are defunct. So you have invested, you have put in that money, but it is of no use. I can proudly say that 2013, we started building toilets, and even to 2021 or 20, we are, every single bio toilet is still being used, and we use bio toilets. That was another problem, that there is no sewage available in the rural areas. So how do you, you keep digging pits, or you kind of have one-time solution? So we had one-time solution. Then we, the principals would, kind of, take my attention to say that, we also have girls. They also need to have, sanitary pads, because they don't get. And alarmingly in villages, and in rural villages, it's a very different world altogether. What we see here does not exist there. So we started, giving them reusable sanitary pads. We gave them 4 hours of training, busted all the myths around it and all of that. And surprisingly today, every single girl is using, all the, 75,000 girls that we have been able to touch in last 2.5 years, every single girl is using, and they are demanding more and more of it. They're even educating their mothers, their sisters and everybody else. And one thing you should also remember is that, whenever you talk about CSR or sustainability, I think you should talk about a cohesive word called sustainable CSR, where sustainability and CSR come together. Okay. Like I said, whenever you work with a corporate entity, you need to make sure that the profit and the results are also there. Okay. You just cannot keep spending money and have no results around it. Similarly, when we kind of, because we focused on schools because of the child development. So we were kind of, looking at this. We even made an in-house mobile app, gave it to our drivers who supply midday meal to all these 693 schools, and said that you click random pictures of these bio toilets and how the food is being served. And all those photographs come to us, and we kind of, see that, whether these toilets are being logged or being used, are kept clean or not clean. Now today, after, so many years, I think we do not have to really go into that kind of a depth. Everything is on autopilot mode. Then we realize that children do not have benches. They are sitting on the floor. There is no light, literally dim light. We started giving them lights, because we are also manufacturers of LED. Okay. We started doing that. We have a lot of wood in our plants, consumed in our plants. Okay. We started, whatever wood was there, we started making tables and benches out of that waste wood. We used to normally sell it for 10-20 lakh rupees a year. We converted that into tables and benches and donated it to the schools. So now the sustainability and CSR came in together, right? We do skill development of all these. So we have set up electrical skill labs in different schools, in different ITIs, and there we are kind of teaching them. We also, because our manufacturing units are in water parched area, we are also water positive. Now this exercise, the first sustainability report for Havells came in 2012-13, the year we began this. The first year itself, we came out with a sustainability report, because the moment we kind of tell the world that this is what we intend to do, we are then questioned. We will always be on our toes to kind of say that, okay, fine, we need to kind of show our intent of doing good for the environment, society, and everything. And with that thought, we started doing that. So when we became water positive, it's not that we sat on that laurel. Today we are like 1.6 times water positive. As an organization, we don't need to. We are not a big consumers of water. We are not a polluting industry. So becoming a wood and paper negative is meaningless to us. But actually, it is not, because like I said, we consume a lot of wood. That is why and we realize that almost 3.5 lakh trees worth of wood and paper across our plants, offices, we consume. Okay, so we started planting 5 lakh trees every year to make sure that that impact is taken off. Because in Baddi, which is in Himachal Pradesh, very close to Chandigarh, we supply water from our plant to 160 families. Do you realize that in Baddi there is no water? There is no municipal water. It's a large industrial hub, but there is no water. So how do you kind of, save water from your plant and supply to 160 families in that area, which is close to our plant? So these kind of initiatives, you start, realizing that there is a purpose behind it. Now becoming water positive was an essential thing for us. Even though we are not a big guzzlers of water like a Coke and a Pepsi, it's not a raw material for us. Planting trees was critical for us, but not because, we were so careful about the climate alone, because we were cutting down trees dramatically. 3.5 lakh, 4 lakh trees every year. And as the organization grows, this consumption is going to grow. So if you do not get sensitized today, things will never happen. And another critical thing is that always look at all of these things from a long-term sustainability perspective. CSR is also sustainability. It gives a lot of benefit to us. We are the 5th best company in our sector, in Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and we are the only electrical company, again from India, to be part of the index also. Okay, one is the ranking, another is part of the index. So in the emerging market index, we are the only electrical company. We are the only electrical company to be part of the DJSI. Right? So all of these things are happening because there is a long term. We do not want to kind of spread too thin. And this is, I think, which is key for all of you when whosoever goes into this, sustainability and, CSR domain. Like I said, it's a common sense. You are using natural resources. Okay. And if you do not give it back to the society, give it back to the, you will have many problems. There, in the entire history of Havells, there has never been a lockdown. Why? Because we've been so careful about the community. We've been giving back to the community. Yeah, we're not spoiling it. There has never been one single instance where any worker would have died, right, within the plant premises or because of an accident or anything, because there is so much of focus on the safety of the employees, which is what, ESG basically, yeah, environment, social and governance. The ratings that Havells, in terms of the corporate governance that it gets is the best in the industry and the best in the country. So you have to kind of, work around the spectrum of things, if you really want to have a, great impact on the society and great impact on the profits of the organization. Profits, why? Because, the customer is so, happy about, that you're doing all of this. Communities are happy, customer is happy because you're coming out with, right quality, right product. Your employees are happy. That is why you're able to build a right quality of product, right? There is no productivity loss. Even in the times of COVID, we supply, because we have a midday meal kitchen, which was closed because, the schools are closed. We started giving, food to poor and needy and the migrant workers. And we said, we told the district, administration in Alwar that we have such a mega kitchen, which can supply food to 1 lakh people a day. You tell us how much food you need and we should be able to do it. And we've been continuously, even today, we are supplying that food. Right. So remember that, this VUCA thing is, and we will always be in this VUCA world forever, probably. Businesses are always about this, uncertainty, but also about agility. So this will never go, irrespective of how stable as a country we become, politically we are absolutely stable, economically we are stable. This uncertainty will always be remain, because if you do not, take this uncertainty into account and you're not agile to all of this, this will never work. Corporations, will just come and go. Any corporation which is, there today and was there yesterday is because they are very agile. Sonu was talking about this acquisition of Havells, sometime back when we were discussing. This is also an agility. How, quickly you can, buy a company and how quickly you can sell a company if you think that is not part of your portfolio today. That's an agility. You do not hold on to things like that. So I think I'll not take more time. Over to you, Sonu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anil. Very engaging, conversation on this. Really enjoyed listening to you, and never paid attention to why Shubh Labh is written. This is the first time that you have really imparted the meaning as to, and it makes so much sense because Shubh Labh is about, doing work which is Shubh, which means you're creating the goodwill while you're earning your profits. So I think the Indian philosophy and the ideology has always been about creating goodwill while you're doing business. And I think that goes deep into our culture and the roots, And
this simple philosophy of, giving your guest the water, even if somebody is crossing your house and they, that
Yes.
whole philosophy is stemming out of this whole.
Correct. So I think we all need to be so proud of our culture because it's right in the roots of how we do business.
Absolutely.
And so many more interesting things that you have talked about, because when you say that goodwill actually has a value in the, in the financial statements, because though it is intangible, but the goodwill is created through how you are, moving towards progress.
And it has tangible benefits also, Sonia. We have seen it.
Yes, we have seen that it has tangible. And once again, I have a lot of respect for a company like Havels, because from a very small company under the leadership, because it comes right from the leadership. And what you were saying about Havels, that this is one company which has really grown as a multinational under one single leader who actually put his, soul into doing this business from a small shop in,
Bhagirath Place.
Yes, Bhagirath Place to a big multinational. I think it's a story of its own kind. So I think hats off to the leadership in Havels. And I think the very interesting part of what you said was having a 360-degree perspective to any problem.
Right.
I think that is the crux of when we do CSR or when we pick up projects. You need that 360-degree perspective. It's not that you do it and then you are done with it, unless you have really taken care of the problem itself, which we talk about in terms of positive impact. So I think this is the other takeaway from what you have said, that having a 360-degree perspective, unless you have done that, there is really nothing much that you have impacted. So that's true. And I think the third thing which I saw, and I think I'm going to ask my next speaker to speak on that and further elaborate, is the autopilot mode. Because unless whatever project you have undertaken, unless it continues to be sustainable, unless it can continue on its own, your job is not completely over, because you have to ensure that the project continues. It is self-sustainable. And I think that's a very important learning for all of us. And whether your business is directly using those natural resources or indirectly, I think giving back to the environment and society, I think it is very important for every business to think about. So hats off to Havels for having become 1.6 water positive, which is not something very small. It is a major achievement, and also be looking into wood and becoming wood and paper negative. So thank you so much, Anil, for sharing these experiences with our students. My next question is to Songki Shah, who is working with Arch Development Foundation, and she's leading this foundation. Songki, you've been engaged in many development projects relating to health and education and microfinance. Now, what is required to ensure self-sustainability of these programs at the grassroots level? Once the foundation intervention is over, how do we ensure that the project is continuing, it's self-sustainable, it's still creating positive impact? So if you could throw some light on this.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much, IMI Jagriti Club, for having me here. In fact, I was just remembering my old days, so whenever we had these sessions in the colleges, so even the college never used to give importance to the social responsibility or, social sector, development sector. It was more like, no, we are not here to talk about the social work. We are more, we are here to teach our students about the marketing, about the finance, about the different functions of the organizations. So I'm very happy and, to see that this is an integral subject of the organization and of the institute. And congratulations to all the students, because you are a part of a very good institute, I would say. So coming to the sustainability, I think this is one of my favorite topic. Because what happened when we start a project, after 3 years, companies or the organization who are working at the grassroots level, they will say, now let's talk about sustainability. How are we going to sustain our projects? After 3 years, sustainability cannot be planned after 3 years. That is the most important thing we have to remember. Sustainability has to be planned right from the beginning of any project. So as Anil said, that the 360-degree perspective of any problem is very, very important. And that's where the sustainability also comes into the picture. So what happened, whenever you are planning a program, you have to think right from the very first day that how are we going to sustain this program after 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years? Because right from the very first day, you have to plan the intervention in such a way. So suppose if I have a program on education, and if I think, okay, tomorrow I need to have this program sustained, so I will recruit my team accordingly. I will plan my activities accordingly. So whenever I'm progressing on my project, I also have my indicators laid down accordingly. Okay, after 1 year, this is how much we are going to achieve. After 2 years, this is what we are going to, this is where we are going to reach out. So sustainability, as I said, cannot be planned after 3 years or 4 years of the project. So that is, I think that is the biggest challenge we have faced with the organization. So whenever we approach them in the beginning, so they were like, okay, just give us the program and we want to see an impact immediately. So tomorrow we are going to start this program, and after 3 months, we will start getting that pressure from the organization. Okay, how are we going to really see the impact? Okay, we are not seeing the change in the education level of the child. Why the children are not coming to the school yet? So basically, we all have to understand that any project takes some time to show the impact as well as to get sustained at the grassroots level. So whenever we are working on any project, we have to really look at the project from a different lens. We cannot apply the same formula everywhere. Every community is different. Every project is different. Every dynamics of the area is different. So we first have to evaluate all those aspects of the project. And then based on that, we need to plan. Plus, whenever we are planning for a project, we have to develop a framework which shows the indicators step by steps, the success indicators, which can be measured, which can be mapped, and where we can know that, okay, this is the place where we are going wrong, or this need to be changed. This is not the strategy which is working at the grassroots level. So therefore, we have to really have those indicators laid down right from the beginning. Most important thing when we are talking about the sustainability, we also have to see how we are using the local resources. If we are going to export everything from the outside, we cannot sustain a project. We have to develop the local resources. We have to engage them. We have to take them into the confidence. Then only we can sustain a project. I think as Anil said that they went to address one problem, then they realized there is one more problem. So one problem led to another one, and they kept on addressing the same thing, at a multiple levels. So this is where we have to see that whenever we are planning a program, we also ensure that we cannot just think about one issue in isolation. We have to see as how this problem, we are not just talking about the cause of it, we are also talking about the multiple effect that problem has on multiple aspects. So therefore, whenever we are planning a program, we have to see, this is, suppose we are doing a program, we have to see that what are the local manpower available, how we can strengthen them, what are the local political bodies are available or working in that area, how we can convince them and we can engage them. What are the different kind of other companies or other organizations working in the same area and working on the same issue, and how we can collaborate with them. So whenever we are talking about the sustainability, we also have to remember one very important aspect, that is the networking and the collaboration. So no organization has everything which can deliver the impact and the sustainability. You need to collaborate at different levels. You have to collaborate with the government bodies. You have to collaborate with the local institutions. You have to collaborate with the local organization working on other issues. So if I'm working on education and I know the children are not coming to the school because they have health issues and I don't have that expertise, so I have to see that what are the other organization or institutions working in that area who can help us with those issues. So that is where we have to partner with different organizations at different levels, and then only we can think about achieving the sustainability. After 3 years or 4 years, we cannot think about sustainability. So like, I just give you an example of one of our program. When all this COVID situation came and we were like clueless what to do, because at the field level, we cannot go, we don't have funds from the organizations. People are not, even the corporates were scared. So they were ready to give us the fund, but then they said, you don't go into the field because you may expose them to the risk. So therefore we have to see that we cannot compromise the education of a child. So then the solution was, we identify the local people who can take care of the education of the child. So we identified some educated girls in the village itself who have been trained online, and now they are taking care of the children who are coming to them and they are getting educated. So I think these are the small things we have to take care, and we have to really have a perspective to it. We have to have a very good conviction about it, and then only we can really achieve what we want to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonki. This was it was really exciting listening to you, because I could actually think of you as one of my students only, because you are so young still, but you're doing such great work, and it's really what should you say, a matter of pride to see someone like you doing so much of groundwork in this space. And it's really nice to see as to how Arch Foundation has gone into identifying and conceptualizing projects, and some very great work you have done. And I think what I find very interesting in your line of thought is that sustainability of a project also has to be planned. It cannot be an afterthought. You can't think of having the issues related to sustainability after you have launched the project, after you have set that going, and then you start thinking that how will this continue. It has to be planned, and I think that contextualizing to the local resources, seeing to is as to whether the collaborations will continue to work in the long run, even when your intervention is out of that project. I think that is a very important part of seeing to it that at the grassroots level, is this going to sustain? Is this going to continue? And will the ownership to the project will then finally be with the beneficiary itself? I think that's very important, that the community has to own the project after a point. And I think that's a very important part, and that part of planning is very instrumental to any project. When we pick up a project, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, it's very important to see, is the community going to own it at the end of the day? And I think that's where your success lies, because I think Sonki this Arch Foundation has actually, sort of imbibed those aspects of designing the project. And thank you so much for, educating our students on this. And my next question is to Dr. Neelam Gupta. Thank you, Neelam, for being with us. So I must tell my students that Dr. Neelam Gupta is not new to IMI. She's been very instrumental in, designing the courses with us, in helping us in the training on CSR, and, has been very important collaborator for field visits as well. So Neelam, you have been the founder for RO, which is a very, I would say a very impactful NGO working in this space, right? Especially in empowering poor and alleviating poverty. You have pioneered the social development space for a very long time and created positive impact in child education, women empowerment, much before the CSR legislation got enacted in India, right? Now, do you think CSR becoming mandatory has had significant difference in scaling up the efforts? And has it had a positive impact in the national social development process? Because you have been working with the corporate, you have pioneered RO, you were working in this space even before that. So how has there been a significant, difference post CSR becoming a legislation? Yeah. So over to you, Neelam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonu. And let me say it's been wonderful being here, and I'm honored to be here to share my thoughts and views with the student community. at IMI who I have been regularly engaging with, as Sonu said, taking some sessions, some training sessions, and of course sharing about our projects, about the field work which IMI students have been coming and witnessing. So thank you so much for having me here. And let me just, also say that some of you might be also looking at a startup in social sector, not only going for, a corporate job or setting up a business, but equally important is a startup in social sector or social entrepreneurship, which I'm sure many of you might be looking at, because I feel that this sector is very, very significant contributor to the corporates. Basically, we are also, kind of eyes and ears of the corporates, how they can develop their corporate strategies and how they can develop their profit strategies, basically looking at people and planet that we provide them. So I feel that we are one of the, jigsaw pieces for the corporates, whether they do CSR or whether they don't do CSR. Those who are not mandatory may not do, but they must be engaging with a social arm or a social sector somewhere to see how they can improve their profits sustainably, and how they can, also keep in touch with the requirements of people and profit, which is the balance, which is very, very important. And it is important because of the VUCA world. And I'm so happy that you are touching the subject of VUCA, which I feel is not new, of course, because it goes back years and years, decades and maybe centuries, where this volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity have been part of our lives, especially in India. When you talk about poverty, when you talk about various other issues, this is the major thing which we have been suffering. And that is why I think which has led to all the development programs, all the CSR programs, and also the mandate being given to CSR. So I think this is, VUCA is one thing which is kind of, we are now keeping it as one word, and we are, as an acronym, we are trying to understand why we are here where we are. But VUCA has always been there. And in one word, if I talk about VUCA, I would say it is the vulnerability, which includes all these four, parameters of VUCA. Basically, we have a lot of vulnerability in our society. We have people living on the margins. We have women suffering gender discrimination and lack of opportunities. We have people who do not have regular jobs, who are working 70% of our population in unorganized sector. We have people, farmers who are facing huge risks, nearly 60 to 70% of population in agriculture sector, which is totally, VUCA oriented. I would say that they are living in a VUCA world. So, and now with COVID, post-COVID situation, this is kind of, the end to it. I mean, it's showing us the larger kind of, that this is it. We cannot go any further if you don't address VUCA. COVID is a result of VUCA, basically, because we have not taken care of the environment. We have not taken care of the sustainability. We have exploited our resources, natural resources, to an extent. We have exploited our people, indigenous populations, traditions. I mean, we have gone in for a rampage and exploited whatever we could on this planet. Hence, this VUCA has led to these natural calamities like, COVID, which is a big slap in our faces, and also many natural calamities, earthquakes, tsunamis, things that we are seeing because of this over-exploitation. So I would say that this is the result of our own doing. So we have to address VUCA now. It's high time. COVID has taught us that now, no more. It has locked us up. It has done everything it could do to humanity. And it has made us learn these lessons very, very critically and very clearly and very, vociferously, I would say. So let us now address VUCA. To your question, Sonu, about the CSR having helped the development sector and NGOs in, doing more work, yes, certainly. If you look at 18-19 data, you would say nearly 24,900 or something close to 25,000 companies taking up CSR. activities, which has been reported on government sites. Nearly 36,000 projects being taken up under CSR in different sectors. I mean, nearly 30 sectors being addressed through CSR. So there has been, of course, a buzzword around CSR. When we started in RO, just to give you a little bit of background, in 2001, I had founded RO as my childhood dream. Basically, I would again say to address VUCA. See, I was seeing so much of vulnerability as a child, people not getting equal opportunities. Children, while we are going to school, there were children who were not going to school, who were, deep down in poverty, not getting equal opportunities. So right in my childhood, while going to school, I had this dream of setting up a social organization where I could help people do, and help in a way to build their skills, to build on their education so that they could fend for themselves. They do not have to be as vulnerable as they were. So in 2001, finally, I could just launch RO, which is a short form of a ray of hope, to give back to the society, to help as many people as possible. But from 2001, I could not really start the community action. I was into research and surveys and helping government in policy making. But it was not helping. It was not satisfying my inner urge to do something. The research would lie on the shelves. It was not helping the poor. It was not helping the vulnerability, not reducing the VUCA, basically. So there in 2008, I said, nothing doing. We have to hit the grassroots. We have to do community action to be able to help people. And since then, RO started taking up, need-based programs. And the approach has been to improve have the outreach to the most vulnerable sections of the society, to do the need-based programs for those people of the society, and third, to do sustainable programs, impact-oriented sustainable programs. So these are the three basic premises on which I built the programs of RO. In the beginning, we started with education, skill development, women's empowerment, which I thought were the pillars of development. Without education, without taking children forward, we cannot look at the generational sustainability. So education, I feel, and I still continue with that feeling, that education and primary education up to 0 to 8 years of empowering children is the basics for any development work to happen, which leads us to the long-term sustainable efforts in development. So as you know, we started with Padho or Badho, which caters to the primary sector of education, where we take children from 6 to 14 years of age and help them improve their learning outcomes, to take them into mainstreaming of system, and to help them continue with the education. So basically providing access, retention, and quality education, so that they are not VUCA anymore. They are not into the VUCA world, to improve their vulnerability, to take them out from that system. So we started with education, but as Anil was discussing, I completely agree, and we have followed the same path as he discussed, that we started with education, but we saw education is not sustainable. There are families who are not able to continue with the education of the child because of poverty, because of ignorance, and also because they don't value education. They think that if the child goes out to earn something, he will get 10-15 rupees, which will help them feed the child himself. So the children were being seen as the earning hands, not the hands which should hold pen and books, but as hands which go out and earn and bring some money so that they could be fed, the family could be fed. So that mindset we had to break. How to break that mindset and how to help them? So we added a program called Garima, which that was to empower women, to give them some opportunities to earn, for their socio-economic empowerment, that they value education, They fight the social evils like alcoholism, like gender discrimination, like, other things, tobacco, and the men not helping the families to, in the poorer segments, not helping them with the child's education. So that mindset we had to break, and also give them some skills so that they can earn a little bit of money to help their child stay in education, and also help them get some better life for their family. So we added Garima. Then when we were trying to add Garima, we found there were certain other concerns, like when we working in Meghalaya, I will just give you an example. We tried to give them skills, but women were, almost, the whole day they were engaged in fetching water. We were working in some of the wettest region of the world, Cherrapunji, near Cherrapunji, but the water everywhere, not a drop to drink was the situation. They could not have water because the corporation supply was meager, hardly half an hour a day. And the women were going uphill and then downhill to a stream to fetch water, and nearly 6 to 8 hours a day they were fetching water. Can you imagine? I mean, on their backs. So no skill would help. Children were also fetching water. No facilities of education would help unless this basic requirement was met. So here then we had to intervene. We had to give them the basic amenities. We give them a solar water pump which could lift water from that stream, take it uphill, and we put up a storage tank there so that the water could be brought down by gravity to that village. And literally it was a moment of liberation for them. When water was brought to their village, so they could send their children to school, they could improve their health improved because they could take bath daily, they could keep hygiene, they could have better life, and naturally then they could have time to learn skills, to focus on their own development basically. And after 3 years of that intervention, I find sustainability of all those efforts. So unless until we go in the problem solving mode, sustainability would not be possible. One problem or the other will keep cropping up for the community who are vulnerable, who cannot see beyond those problems. So ultimately, livelihood is a big problem for getting education, future skills, health. Nothing is possible without livelihood. So all these jigsaw pieces or the dots are to be connected. And NGOs are the eyes and ears of the corporates to do effective CSR. So it has to be a situation where NGOs are doing rigorous, need-based work for sustainable, impactful projects, so that the CSR that the company is doing is ultimately effective, and it is also giving results, the sustainable results to the corporate, and also adding value to their business, their brand image, their community engagement, their products, their life of their products, their profits. So unless until we create that ecosystem between the corporate and the CSR and the NGO, it will not be a win-win situation for both of them, and ultimately for the country. See, I'm looking at a larger picture or a larger canvas in the country. So if you are spending some 18,000 or 19,000 crore in CSR, and if 25,000 companies are engaging in CSR, and you do not know where you are going as a force, then how do you show the impact of CSR? This is sadly the missing piece in jigsaw. We are trying to put small pieces and trying to complete the picture and the canvas. But I see a lot of things missing because ultimately we do not, we have nothing to show where we have gone, where we have reached, where this VUCA world footprints are reducing, how we are doing, reducing all this vulnerability. We have no data to show. So although we are working very closely with the companies doing CSR, we are working very closely with communities, a lot of CSR projects happening, impactful CSR happening, But the larger picture, what is emerging, we do not know. So for that, particularly with RO, I am insisting that we keep an MIS, we keep our data bank, we use a lot of digital tools to keep our projects database in place for showing the impact. I can tell you in which state, in which community, in which area, location, we have created what impact. I have from RO put all my assets on geotagged all the say toilets. Suppose I have built 10,000 toilets in the community. We have geotagged each and every toilet with a photograph. So if you go on Google, look at RO where we have built toilets, you will get those 10,000 dots, and you know that much has been contributed and has also gone in the government's records. We have put it in government's records at the district level, at the village level, everywhere. So I know where we have created the impact. Likewise, I think if we can collaborate and if we can merge this type of database to know how much has happened under CSR, we would avoid a lot of duplicacy of efforts. We would know where we are going and where the efforts are needed. So that way, I think CSR has been a wonderful step forward for India, being a mandate. And also I would tell you that a lot of small companies, like more than 7,000 companies, are smaller companies who are doing, I think, up to say 10 lakh or 50 lakh of 20 lakh of CSR, exactly the figures can be captured. So for those 7,000 companies, where they are going is even more important, because sustainability reporting is not there for them. Although larger companies are doing sustainability reporting, they might also be keeping their impact. But where these 7,000 companies are going, how they are keeping their records, how they are showing the sustainability of efforts. So I feel that we have to consolidate our efforts, and all the NGOs also must have their impact oriented, database, impact reports in place, all the CSR reports, so that we can compile everything, collaborate, collate, and know where this whole journey is going, where our train of CSR is going, where we are reaching, and also know where we have to reach. Somewhere, we are connecting with SDGs, which gives us a kind of, benchmarking and also telling us where we have to go. So either we map with that, or we map with the government targets. Kind of target-oriented approach, I would say, has to be adopted, which is slightly missing. Government has given some aspirational district, 112 aspirational district, but where do we go with that? Sometimes government dictates that, you do only education and health this year to the CSR fraternity. So all the public sector would start doing education and health, forgetting other things. Are we really thinking in a holistic manner in CSR? Would be my question in CSR, because that is what will bring us to sustainability. So I hope that we will think on those lines going forward in CSR, and as we evolve CSR to a more meaningful and more impact-oriented, thing for India to show development, we would look at these missing links in CSR and make it a force to reckon with, make it a force to show that development has happened through CSR. So that is what I have to say. I think I might have taken more time than required. Thank you so much. And thank you once again for having me and listening to me patiently. Thanks a lot, Sonu.
Thank you, Neelam. It is always pleasure listening to you, and more the number of years that you spend in this, the more the passion is, and the more you have to share as your experience. So your 20 years are being, very clearly visible in what you have just said, because everything is coming right from your heart. And some very insightful things, because what we do see here is that ever since, so of course, legislation is important in any country, but it has brought NGOs to the center stage. And as you have rightly mentioned, that they are the eyes and the ears for the corporate, because every corporate who is trying to, contribute towards social development or towards the, sustainability of the environment, they do need an implementing partner. And unless we have more of professional NGOs like that RO is, it's not really possible. So how do you ensure that every project that is picked up is actually conducted in a project mode? How much of impact has been assessed post that project is over? How much of sustainability has been looked into? How much of the 360-degree perspective has been created? Because as you rightly mentioned, from Padho Badho, you've gone to Garima. From Garima, you have tried to look into basic amenities of the village. So it's all very connected. So unless you look into this in a 360-degree manner, you cannot really uproot the problem. So that's where one's initiative has to be. So you said so much in a very short duration, and I think it has been very impactful. Thank you so much, Neelam. It will take me as much time to summarize what you have said. So I'm going to raise the next question to my next speaker, and that is Mayuri Mishra. She's head of projects India Project ECO. Mayuri, ECO has done some very pioneering work to tele-mentoring model. And what have been the key learnings in scaling up and extending the reach to the underserved communities? I also read that your goal is to touch 400 million lives in India and 1 billion lives globally by 2025. Now, this is a very humongous task. So how are you going to meet this kind of very big challenge? So over to you, Mayuri.
A very good morning to all of you. And I'm sorry, my video is off because there's some connectivity problem or some issue with the Zoom. I've rebooted and still the video is not on. So I will give you a completely a little different perspective. And this is my perspective as an individual. Considering the focus is CSR. And yes, the question that you asked about the mammoth task of touching the life of 1 billion people and the current COVID pandemic situation and why we are discussing what we are discussing, because clearly what we were doing before March 2020 is not the way forward. Specifically when it comes to CSR industry or CSR sector or CSR funds, because we know that nonprofits are really hit. And like it has been established by my previous distinguished speakers that businesses cannot run in a failed society. You have to be engaged with your stakeholders more so than you did before, right? Because now it is in this current scenario where we've heard about migrant laborers moving, we've heard about, not just the health concerns which are there. There are violence against women and children have risen up. So this is like a very special, environment where, you can't move out of the house and you cannot really do what you were doing initially. So I'll come to this later, but answering your question and answering the way forward for most corporates in the current scenario is to be accountable and scalable. And that has to be through technology and digitization. There is no way out here, right? And Project ECO is therefore a capacity building platform, which is all about technology and digitization. So if you see Project ECO, you see the initiative of JPIGO. JPIGO is Johns Hopkins University's initiative where they are facilitating implementation of governments to reach out. So how are we going to reach is only the scale happens only two ways. One, you need to scale any project. You have to be in line with the government. You have to collaborate with the government. And secondly is technology. You cannot reach out to the farthest corner of, India manually. Okay, I understand and I completely appreciate that non-profits working in these different areas, you have to collaborate with them, but you cannot, if you want to scale at a short span, you cannot just go and do it any other way except through already existing machinery, which is the government of India, and through technology and digitization. And how we plan to do it is exactly the same way. We are right now collaborating with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and to reach out or empower, capacitate, not the beneficiary, to capacitate, say, the subject matter experts in a public healthcare sector. It is the doctors, it is the ASHA workers, the frontline public healthcare workers. और आप उसको कैसे करेंगे? भारत सरकार ने कुछ गाइडलाइंस बनाई है, कुछ ट्रेनिंग बनाई है, कुछ उसूल बनाए हैं. सबसे बड़ी चैलेंज तो यही होती है, चाहे वो CSR का लॉ हो या कुछ और हो, to make your people understand what are their one rights and what is allowed and what is not allowed. If I sit back and I ask, and Neelam ji will agree to it, people, what do you understand of what is CSR and what is not? There'll still be a confusion. And why I say this, my intense 4 years working with the government when we launched this legislation was primarily focused on just one thing. Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, who's our mentor, kept harping on just one simple question. Just ask people, what do you understand by CSR, and what is CSR and what is not CSR? So coming to the point, knowledge, mobilizing knowledge, moving knowledge is the paramount thing before any initiative. अपने राइट्स को, चाहे वो गांव वाला हो, चाहे वो आशा वर्कर्स हो, सिर्फ अपने राइट्स को ही नहीं, आपको उस जो चीज है उसकी नॉलेज इम्पार्ट करना सबसे जरूरी चीज है. स्टेप नंबर 1. इस चीज को लेते हुए प्रोजेक्ट एको has actually collaborated with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, where they are reaching out to the remote areas of rural India. If I take the COVID situation, the frontline workers, the ASHA workers, to train them on different aspects of COVID. And I'm not talking about COVID. If I take maternity, child health, or I take, say, cancer, एक गांव में बलिया के किसी कोने में, उत्तर प्रदेश में एक छोटा सा गांव है बलिया के किसी कोने में एक प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर सेंटर है, उसके पास कोई इलाज कराने आया. How do you recognize, how will you empower that doctor or that nurse or that the medical officer sitting there to recognize, say, early signs of tuberculosis, early signs of cancer? These days cancer is on the rampant. The government of India has a target to meet to eradicate TB from India by 2025. So how will they do it? पहले तो knowledge impart करेंगे, right? आप knowledge impart करेंगे, आपको train करना पड़ेगा आपके जितने भी public healthcare कार्यकर्ता हैं, all the workers working in the public healthcare domain, to know how to recognize TB. Then only they'll get them the treatment, and then only the program will understand. So, based on this entire, component, Project ECHO ties up with the government, with other big foundations, to take their good works or to decentralize knowledge rather, or move the knowledge without really moving people. So technology comes into place. Scale comes through like I said, the government and the existing systems, which is either a government or a big foundation, and then you use technology. तो कैसे करते हैं? आशा वर्कर है, टीबी का अगर एग्जांपल लें, this आशा worker is the last, or rather I say is the last rung in that entire public healthcare domain in India, or the first person who has the contact with the beneficiary. हमारा उद्देश्य है, NGO का उद्देश्य है, कॉर्पोरेट का उद्देश्य है, through funding, to make sure that women in India, maybe maternal child health is the vision, or child mortality rate is the vision, or to eradicate TB. So what will they do? The first person has to be trained to recognize and report these things. So through technology, this is done. Like we are doing this, we are addressing this entire event through technology. Same way, the idea is these people or these community people are trained. And the idea is to not make it very classroom kind, or very one person speaks and other shuts up and listen. It is a very interactive way that we do it, where all participants have to come up with a case. तो मैं अगर एक आशा वर्कर हूँ, मेरे पास एक प्रेग्नेंट औरत है जिसके पास एक तरह की खांसी शुरू हो गई है, so I will have that case ready and I will write that one pager, or I will report on recording that case, and I will come to this event. So all 30 to 40 people who have come to attend this training, which is conceptualized and planned by the government of India or the body who we are working with, because we work only through collaboration, and then they will come and discuss that case. तो उससे क्या होएगा ना, बाकी के 40 लोग जो बैठे हैं उनकी नॉलेज भी बढ़ेगी कि अरे मेरे गांव में भी तो कुछ ऐसा केस हुआ था, कहीं उसको भी तो टीबी नहीं है, कहीं उसको अच्छा tuberculosis, so maybe she also has breast cancer, because there is a cancer discussion happening. So this is what we do. We then discuss thematic areas or train people with all levels of public health care people. We are also getting into environment and education, especially with the new national education policy coming out. There is a lot of dialogue happening on how we'll do it and how quickly we'll do it. And technology and digitization, you cannot ignore. So very, very clearly, this is what I'll say, answering your questions, so that I can take up more things. The other thing I would like to just mention here for the benefit of the students, and I will encourage all of you youngsters to go and Google and figure this out. In the entire domain of social work, not just corporate social responsibility, there are two new things which are coming up through experience. It is not what it was कि पैसे दिए NGO को, NGO काम करेंगे, monitoring, evaluation and sustainability. Not that simple. The term that I want you all to really go ahead and research and see if you want to be in the social sector. Maybe you would want to do a course in it. One is the human-centered design. Everything is happening around human-centered design, which is primarily a design management framework, which is done for the corporates. And the other is design thinking. That how, you can be inclusive. It's a pathway for diversity and inclusion. ये दो कॉन्सेप्ट्स बहुत तेजी से सोशल वर्क में अडॉप्ट हो रहे हैं, इवन फ्रॉम द कॉर्पोरेट साइड, when they are planning their projects or their strategies, बहुत ही तेजी से these two concepts are coming up. And it will only benefit the youngsters, because I'm also like doing an online course, because I see the huge requirement there is, that these concepts were primarily used in the corporate world for sales and marketing. ये क्या है? ये behavioral science वाले concepts हैं, where you want to co-create. अभी तक क्या है, CSR legislation हुआ जी, corporate को एक diktat मिला, आपको इतने करोड़ देने हैं और आप projects बनाइए. आपने SDG और aspirational districts देखी government की, उन्होंने कहा अच्छा ये gap है, इसमें पैसा लगा के ऐसे ऐसे करके NGO को पकड़ो, काम कराओ. It has failed somewhere. We've heard everybody, it's failed somewhere. The output, or rather, I'll take back my words, probably not failed is a very harsh word to use, but the expected outcome has not been there. And CSR is a very organic domain. Abhi 2014 it came out, and as per permutation combination, there are amendments happening. Abhi there is another amendment that has happened recently based on the new COVID situation in the law. So amendments will keep happening based on the ground reality. What does it reflect? It reflects that everything has to be a bottom-up approach. ऊपर से नीचे नहीं, नीचे से ऊपर, grassroots level में जिस society, जिस community, चाहे वो water हो, चाहे वो toilet हो, चाहे वो नीलम जी ने बहुत अच्छा example दिया, Anil also talked about having constructing toilets and stuff like that. My experience says, I would like to quote this experience, that there was this area where all these lovely bathrooms were made by all the well-meaning corporates and non-profits, and they were not being used by people. And they did a research to figure out one thing, and you'll probably smile or laugh when you hear this. The reason why the community was not using these toilets were because they were used to defecating in the open. So inside that capsule, inside that little bathroom that they had made, they felt suffocated. So they couldn't sit through. And you know what they did to encourage people to use these bathrooms? Can anybody tell me? Though you guys are on mute, but if I'd love to see any answers coming from the student. Anybody, what do you think they did it in this situation? Everything is aligned, the best toilets are made, but people are not using because they are feeling claustrophobic.
So they kept a photograph of how it looked outside, or they kept an opening in the door.
Perfect.
Which they could see what was outside.
Thank you for that. No, that's the cool idea. But what they did was they just removed the roof of the toilet. ऊपर की छत उड़ा दी उन्होंने. And the villagers started using it. And why? What I'm trying to say here, increasingly corporates, increasingly non-profits who are intensely working in these areas in different dynamism, they are realizing social behavior is so important. So therefore, this new trend, I'm not being asked this, but new trend is on behavioral science, on human design center, on design thinking, which takes into consideration the mental or the social elements of the beneficiary that they are going to be sort of, doing all of this to, to facilitate them. So this is this is all I have. Maybe you can ask me more questions. I completely got taken off from what was asked. I hope I've answered your question.
No problems, Mayuri. I think it was very well answered because you talked about, how do you create scale and how you collaborate with the government to be able to achieve, reach and speed. And I think those are very important aspects. And I think what you said, which I really think is very important, is how do you move knowledge? How do you mobilize knowledge? And I think one of the biggest challenges is how do you create awareness? How do you disseminate knowledge? How do you train the trainers? I think that's a very big challenge if you have to scale up any project. And I think ECHO has done some very pioneering work in that space. And as you rightly said, that the biggest challenge for any NGO or for any social project is to understand the behavior of the beneficiary. If the beneficiary does not really appreciate or is not able to embrace what you're trying to introduce, then your entire effort is actually either having minimal benefit or actually not having any benefit at all. So I think those were great insights. I'm not going to take more time because I'm sure we are running out of time, and I'm sure there are probably a couple of questions which students may want to pose because our wrap-up time was 11. Maybe we can exceed by another 5 or 6 minutes. I'm sure the Jagrati team is going to let us know whether we can take questions at this point in time or not.
Yes, ma'am.
So over to you, the anchors, please.
Yes. Now we begin with the Q&A session. Dr. Soumya Ji Raju, please go ahead with the question.
Hello, hi. I have a question to the people primarily addressing to the representatives from the corporate. Should Indian corporate with global indices, should Indian corporate benchmark with global indices in terms of sustainability, or look for matrices which are more Asian or Eastern? Owing to a greater alignment in terms of development to its Asian counterparts, what would be more logical? So that's the question. So anybody can feel free to address. Thank you.
Okay, let me start this. So for Havells, I think we benchmark ourselves not with our industry, okay, and we only benchmark with the international peers. So if I was to kind of look at the Indian electrical sector, then there is virtually none who is already into this kind of a high sustainability order. So you only have the option of reaching out to companies like Schneider or Siemens or Signify, but we also would kind of take a lot of other companies into, and which are again international companies from, let's say, Unilever, okay. And these experiences are very, very different kinds, because we don't take it, even in India, we don't compete. We never say that we compete with our, companies of the electrical segment. We would look at an Asian Paint, we would look at some other company, or maybe a HUL, maybe a FMCG company, a consumer durable company. And that is how the uniqueness of Havells has, come up over the years. So let's say service model, I will just give you one example. This is digressing from the sustainability, but the service model of Havells, when we started, was the only company in the country in the electrical sector to give you doorstep service. Otherwise, every other competitor was asking you to go to the service center, get your product, because the product cost was not very high. But Havells became the first company because that's a consumer durable model, that you log a complaint and there is no service center for us. Somebody will come. Now, if it is a 10 rupee switch or a 15,000 geyser or maybe a 50,000 television, it doesn't matter. We will still come to your house and do this. So you learn, and that is how we got distinguished over a period of time. Right? Similarly, we learned a lot from other companies in the FMCG sector, and we became the first company to call ourselves as FMEG company, fast moving electrical goods company. Right? This term was coined almost 7 years back at 6 o'clock in the evening. And today the world recognizes FMEG as a segment. So even in sustainability, when we started this whole thing, we realized that there aren't many examples, apart from good companies like Tata's, Mahindra's, who are already very high on sustainability. What can you learn from others within the sector also? For that, you have to go to a Siemens or a Signify or any other international company, because and then you see that what is best for India, because you can't just cut, copy and paste.
Right.
So you will have to really look at it. What is so critical for me as a company in the country, and what is best I can take. But you can't just copy and replicate a model there. But yes, a lot of learning can come.
Sure. The question also slightly is into looking at the Asian models in comparison to the international models. So how do you look at the development of a certain geography and its alignment to the kind of practices we adopt for sustainability? So do you see a commonality, or you still feel that we can learn from anywhere and we just have to adapt?
We can learn from anywhere. I think, again, if you were to look at the Asian model for that matter, different countries have, because there are cultural differences. Again, you can't just replicate the similar behavior in India would have, right? We sell our products in different countries, and different countries have different nuances, and which is the core of any marketing or a sales thing, that you understand the customer behavior, right? Similarly, you understand the behavior of the community. Forget about Asian model. I normally say that India itself is like a 50 United States of India. Okay, there you have 50, here we have 30. But the point is that Tamil Nadu versus Kerala versus Karnataka versus North India, it is absolutely a different world altogether. Right? So
I just want to add another thing. Sorry, Anil, just a bit, because Soumya asked a very relevant question with regards to, Indian market and also emerging countries. Soumya, right now, if you see some of the indices, and we've been talking to Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange also, they are evolving with some of the indices, and companies will start reporting on these. There's a lot of discussion which is happening. But global standards, like the one that we applied for, I mentioned about DJSI, Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and CDP, it actually, helps us in understanding the benchmark, the various best practices. And being a financial services, just to share a bit about, our industry, we've been looking at globally what are the best practices and how can we come up to that curve. So first we see that, and then see the possibility of getting some initiatives implemented. Then we see what are the Indian companies who are known in this field, what are they doing? Like Anil rightly mentioned, so we see what Mahindra Financial Services is doing, or what HDFC Bank is doing. Can we do some of those initiatives? So there's a lot of learning that comes from there also. So you're right that, and we have given this feedback to, CDP and some of the other international standards that do look at some, issues from a Asian perspective, or larger, maybe emerging markets perspective. They are trying to work on it. There are, of course, the industry-wide supplements which are there, and, you apply on those applications. But yeah, from a more of a developing country scenario, I think there's a lot of evolution which is happening. Going forward, I see a lot of Indian companies applying for Indian-based indices also. So I'm sure that you know about the Bombay Stock Exchange has a one which is ESG-based, carbon index-based. They will be coming up with a CSR-based also. So let's see. I think the moment the indices evolve, Indian companies will look at applying those also.
But actually, most of them are at a very, very initial stage.
Very nascent
right?
stage. Correct.
So there is nothing really, even if for that matter, if you look at, integrated reporting, right? It's hardly there. Even the government is not very clear as to what you should be really reporting. So this is where, there is so much to learn right now from the evolved nations, and your journey can be much faster.
Absolutely. So I think we have a bunch of students here, right? So I think they would also get to be a part of a lot of change that's going to happen in the next few years. So I just bounced off this question so that everybody can think collaboratively in this direction. And I really thank all of you for your answers, both of you for the answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be taking one last question. So Nisha Mukim, you can please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Manvi. My question is for Richa ma'am. Ma'am, you talked about investing in the communities as an essential for sustaining for a long period of time. How do you identify which communities to target?
Nisha, for the question. Like I mentioned, Nisha, when we enter corporate sector, as a professionals, management professionals or social work professionals, we need to understand what is the business all about, and then develop, what should I say, a business case for investing in communities. Just to give an example of L&T Financial Service flagship program, Digital Sakhi program, which is on digital financial inclusion for rural communities, where women are the change agents. So what we try to understand was, what is our one of our businesses is into microfinance. There were issues with regards to, when demonetization happened, there was of course a cash crunch in the rural communities. Now, how can as CSR professionals we can address this issue? Now, knowing very well that there is an impact on our business also and larger communities, we decided to train a rural women who could actually be from the village into digital financial literacy, again utilizing our own financial expertise, and start training communities on DFL or digital financial literacy via these women. Now, what happens? You source a woman, you kind of, impart her with the basics of financial literacy. You impart her with, you give her an asset in the form of digital asset like tablets that we give. Then you continuously kind of train her on leadership skills. It's not very easy for women to come out of their household. So you have to deal a lot with their family members also. You have to do infrastructure feasibility assessment, because a digital Sakhi program can only run when there are smartphone devices or net connectivity, which is not there in every rural area. So you start doing that, you do these, so you understand where your rural footprint is in terms of business. So there's business adjacency. You're able to utilize your business expertise in terms of financial literacy domain. You're able to connect to a larger Digital India campaign, which the government of India is promoting and going towards less cash economy, and then make a case and then present it to your top management. When that happens, then you don't have a 1-year program or a 2-year program. You would have a 3 to 5 years program, because then the management also understands that, any program for a social impact or even from an economic impact to happen, it takes that kind of time, and they'll stay invested. And as you know, when you enter the companies, there will be limited resources unless and until, of course, you have large foundations. There'll be limited resources. As a company in CSR, you cannot do any and everything. So, as professionals, it is important that you develop programs that are aligned to business, that are adjacent to business, that are, you're able to use the expertise, you're able to give scale to some extent. One of my panelists, I think she spoke about collaborations. I think it's important to look at collaborations both from a government angle as well as corporate angle. So in our, of course, in the Digital Sakhi program, we are looking at corporates who are, let's say, into agri and agri-allied trade, so that we can look at upskilling some of our women entrepreneurs from that angle. Can they give their business technology, business inputs? Can we look at a collaboration with the telecom player that can help us and give net connectivity? So these are potential collaborations, that you need to also, again, continuously share with your top management. One thing which is very critical as professionals when we enter, within corporate spaces, communicate to internally and externally as much as possible about your work. You need to involve your board. You need to involve your top management. I've had, my beneficiaries come and talk to my board members. And when that happens, and people really get moved when you can show the impact and the social change. When that happens, the community investment that we're making, they're bound to stay for longer. And then therefore they become sustainable also. So these are a couple of things I think as students you can keep in mind, that when you enter workforce, make it business aligned, make it business adjacent, align it to the national priorities. Of course, all of them will contribute toward the sustainable development goals as well. Neha, I hope I've been able to address some of your query.
So we'll end the session now. We would like to thank all of our panelists for a highly informative and rich discussion. It was a great learning experience for all of us, and for that we're truly grateful. It was truly enlightening to understand the concept of planning the sustainability from Ms. Sonki Shah. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing with us your thoughts on how sustainability needs planning right at the beginning, and how it is important to create a successful collaboration with different organizations to fill the gaps in implementation. Ms. Mayuri Mishra provided insights towards how to scale any project. She enlightened us on the human-centered design and design thinking. We thank you, ma'am, for sharing such fresh perspectives with us. Mr. Anil Sharma gave us a new perspective when he connected the phrase Shubh Labh, which is rooted in our culture as the foundation of the CSR initiative. Sir also mentioned how companies, by being agile, can overcome the hindrances caused by VUCA. We feel more enlightened now. Thank you, sir.
Manvi, please unmute yourself.
Ms. Richa Pant's thoughts on focus on stakeholder inclusion, internal as external, were truly enriching. They were very useful for us as management students. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing the same with us. We would also like to thank Dr. Neelam Gupta for enlightening us on how education and women empowerment should be considered as basics of any development progress. Also, how problem-solving approach paves way for sustainable development. And once again, on behalf of everyone virtually present here, I express my sincere gratitude to the guest speakers, Ms. Richa Pant, Ms. Mayuri Mishra, Mr. Anil Sharma, Ms. Sonki Shah, and Dr. Neelam Gupta for taking out time from their busy schedules and sharing their thought-provoking insights with all of us. I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank Dr. Professor Sonu Goyal for consenting to be the moderator for the session and conducting this session in a highly coordinated manner. And now I would request.
Thank you.
I would request the panelists to kindly join the breakout room now. You will get a pop-up on your screen and you can join the room by clicking on the join breakout room button.
Before that, Sonu ma'am, if you want to say anything.
Okay, so I think we are finished with the entire panel discussion, and I hope all the students thoroughly enjoyed the, listening to all the speakers. How was it? Nisha?
Yes, ma'am, it was very enlightening.
It was enlightening. So I'm sure, we would have these speakers once again, maybe when the campus opens up, hopefully by at least early next year, if not this year. And we get to talk to them and, also engage with them. And I'm also asking the Jagrati members to tie up with some of these NGOs and see if we can do more volunteering work by the students, right? So we need more engagement from the students for doing volunteering work, right? So thank you for being such patient listeners, all of you. And I think I'll take leave. Is that fine, Manvi, Parth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this we conclude the CSR Summit. We are certain that the session has been very enlightening for each one of us present here. I would like to take this opportunity to commend all the guests, participants, speakers, professors, sponsors, students, and staff of IMI for making this session an unparalleled success. as well as the media persons for the online coverage of the event. We would also like to thank our sponsors, RPSG as associate partner, MBA Trek as career and skill development partner, IOCL as co-sponsor, DUBeat, an independent student newspaper, as digital media partner, Health and Happiness Private Limited as e-commerce partner, Cengage as education partner, Davanka as fashion partner, Brewhouse as iced tea partner, Multimind Creations as innovation partner, Punjab National Bank as loan partner, DU Express as media partner, Human Capital as media partner, Mint as news subscription partner, Radio City as radio partner, College Dunia as social media partner, Unity as student community partner, Innovators Bay Technology Private Limited as technology partner, Campus Times Pune as youth partner, FinLadder, Tribe Concept, Umbrella Genix, Dr. Vedyas, Cambia Sportswear, Superior Wireco, Unschool, EduPeer, Your Space, Sage Publishing, Sans Spiral, Green Sky.
We can leave.
All the students can now leave. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for joining.